You are listening to the Purdue Report with Jake Dunn every Wednesday on the Central Indiana Sports Report. This week with guest host Michelle Garmon of the Tipton Tribune and Elwood Call-Leader.
Hello, all you Purdue fan listeners out there. I know an IU person, but I'm going to be kind and I'm going to lead the questions tonight because this way it frees Jake and Greg up to give some really good introspection on the thoughts.
Hey, I host the IU Report and I'm a Purdue fan, so it's only fair that Michelle gets to lead the questioning here on what is probably not going to be the happiest Purdue Report ever, Jake.
This kind of brings us back to the football days when there didn't seem like there was a whole lot of hope going on. So, yeah, looking forward to the next.
Not that bad.
Well, Jake, I want to start with you because you were in attendance for the Boilermakers game against Ohio State on Sunday, your birthday. Shame on Matt Painter and company not giving you a good birthday present.
Yeah, I was really hoping it'd be a pretty stress-free win. On paper, I think people would argue it probably should have been, but obviously, obviously it's not how it played out. If anything, it was a pretty stress-free win for Ohio State, if anything.
You know what? What's
worst performance of the year, I thought.
So, Jake, tell us, what do you think made Purdue get down like they did by double digits?
This is something that Greg and I talked a little bit about on the Daily Show, but it just seems like there's got to be some sort of communication problem or something on defense. It's just mental lapses on defense. And Painter said in his post-game press conference that there are times when there'll be a possession or two or really good defense, and then very next possession they'll come down and the team will be running the same action, and Purdue will mess up on a rotation or communicating, things like that. Greg and I also agreed that kind of seems like there are some attitude problems on the team. I would agree with Greg when he said it's probably the worst performance of the year, and they picked it at quite possibly the worst possible time.
I only said there were attitude problems because Matt Painter kind of indicated that there were attitude problems. And there's a little bit of 4 or 5 games this year of head hanging. I wouldn't say necessarily bad attitudes, but just not as engaged as you would think. And this is a team that is a veteran team that was number 1 in the season for a reason.
I think there's a disconnection.
But why? They're the same guys as last year.
They are in
That's
some
the
ways.
thing, Jake.
But they aren't.
To me, the thing, Jake, is it's pretty much the same guys as last year, the year before. Michelle's been on this athleticism thing, but they're more athletic than they were 2 years ago when they went to the national championship game. There's no question about that. And I think there's something to that when you have 4 of your 5 guys are probably less than average athlete for their position, but they're skilled enough they should be able to make up for it. And by the way, offensively, that's the only thing that gives me hope here is the offensive efficiency has been fantastic, even in most of these losses. And if you get in the NCAA tournament, their only hope is you get 6 teams that can't shoot. Maybe you draw 6 teams that's their weakness. They can't shoot because really, Jake, that's pretty much where we are with our hope at this point.
Yeah, I mean, even if you do get teams that shoot, I mean, it kind of seems like Purdue's plan has just been hope that the other team doesn't get hot from 3 because this defense is, I guess, kind of designed to give up open threes. And so I don't know if the scheme is missing some of the players that are able to do some of the things the scheme is designed to do. It seems like offensively that, to Michelle's point, we don't have the athletes to be able to do the rotation, get there in time. Yeah, very disappointing performance, and so far turned out to be a pretty disappointing season. We still have the tournament, both Big Ten tournament and NCAA tournament, so there's still some hope. But if the team is just bored and just waiting for March Madness, then I would like to see some mental signs that they are treating this as a March Madness game.
Never imagined Northwestern and Wisconsin would be huge games at the end of the year, but here we are.
And I know IU lost to Northwestern. I'm not just say that, but Northwestern, they're playing well here at the end of the year.
Yes, they are. And they're a team that, for whatever reason, kind of seems like it plays them pretty close, at least here, over the past few years. So that's something that, kind of worries me a little bit. And Wisconsin has won more than any team has at Mackey seemingly in recent years.
I was going to skip. How many losses at Mackey did you see when you were over at Purdue? They've had 5 this year. Four.
Yeah, I may have to go back and do some research on that. I remember losing to, I think it was Wisconsin twice, Mackey. One was Johnny Davis. I think he went off in one game against Purdue. I think it was a break game, right. So it didn't help things either. But that's one I for sure remember. But Mackey used to be a place where people were afraid to play, but now it just seems like teams are playing really well when they come to Mackey. Even teams like Washington and Penn State that they're not world beaters. They're coming in here and shooting the ball pretty well against this Purdue team. So pretty concerning here for March, and Purdue right now looks like a team that may not make it out of the second weekend, or out of the first weekend, excuse me.
Where does this rank to you guys in disappointments of Purdue basketball seasons?
With the caveat, Jake, that there's still some to be played. It could end up being the greatest season of all time by the end if everything went perfectly. But as of right now, Jake, most disappointment that you can remember?
Certainly that I can remember. And now, granted, my fandom, I guess, if you will, goes back only about 15 years. So I don't know a ton about Purdue before then, but obviously there's the Robbie Hummel injuries. That's pretty disappointing. But this team has been fairly healthy this year. I know TKR missed a couple of games at the beginning of the season, but that didn't really seem to matter. Jack Benner, he looked like he might have hurt his hand. I haven't looked into that at all, but he was down a couple of times and was holding his hand. So hopefully they don't lose him, because Greg, as we've talked about, he's a good piece for this team. And Liam Murphy, I'm sure he's a great kid and everything, but he just, I feel like we probably could have got somebody a little bit better than him in the portal. Maybe somebody who's a little more athletic.
And the only team that I can think of that it reminds me, or that compares to the disappointment of this season, especially when you talk about expectations preseason, I'm not sure. There's probably been 3 or 4 times in my life I thought Purdue was a legitimate national championship contender. The Robbie Hummel years were 2 of those, and obviously the 2010 team, he got hurt, or 29 he got hurt. The 2010 he wasn't able to play the entire season. That was a disappointment. That's not the same thing. But this,
don't forget the Glenn Robinson, that first team that went to the 8 and got lost to Duke.
But that was a fantastic season. I'm talking about disappointing seasons. That was a disappointing. Hey, if we want to talk about disappointing ends to seasons, we could really get into some stuff here at Purdue. And Jake's lived it, but he has not even lived half of it for people my age. Oof, it's been brutal.
Hey, Jake, I know we talked about this earlier this year on the show, and I talked about Braden Smith and the fact that I just didn't think he could. Every year he plays so many minutes, and seems a little worn down at the end of the year, to where his shots maybe not consistent. And I know he hit the big 3 there late in that game, but he also struggled a little bit from the field. What do you see from your perspective of Braden Smith and his game, and what needs, and do you think he'll be ready to really go Big Ten tournament and in the NCAA tournament?
Yeah, I'm hoping that whatever this is, whether it's a lull or he's not feeling 100%, whatever it is, I hope they get that figured out before the tournament starts. To me, one of the reasons that Braden Smith, one of my favorite players and a lot of Purdue fans' favorite players for the past few years, because of the effort that he gave out there on the floor. He seems like he had that killer instinct, had what it took to win those games that were close down the stretch. And that's just not something that I feel like we've seen much this year. Maybe early, in the season, like at Alabama, for example, Texas Tech. Those games early on this season.
Jake, we've seen it at moments and losses. Against Illinois, he kind of brought him back by himself.
Obviously, I don't know what's going through his mind, but I don't know if they think that they can just outscore people and win games. I think there's been multiple times this season where that's proven not to be the case, even in the Ohio State game and other games. It's not been just him either. It's been like Kaufman-Renn. I mean, some of these senior supposed leaders, they're out there throwing their hands up, yelling at the ref for not calling a foul or missing something, and that's understandable doing it once or twice. But I mean,
an opponent.
Yeah, and if you're doing that every time down the floor, and that's just something that we're necessarily used to at Purdue, and something that I think I don't know if it's the NIL. I don't know what's going to get into their heads. I don't know if it's the preseason rank number one or what, but they set the expectations before the season started. They said Final Four or bust, and so far they're looking like they're going to be a bust. So it's expectations it's expectations that they said that they put that on themselves, and they're failing to live up to it.
The most disappointing thing to me is that they have become a matchup team. They're a good matchup against some teams and not a very good matchup against other teams. And instead of imposing their will, which is what we thought they were going to be coming into the season, and they just haven't been.
And going back to Oscar Clough, at the beginning of the season, he was really good for Purdue. He was scoring the ball pretty well, rebounding very well. And we just feel like we just haven't really seen that outside of had a really good game at Nebraska. Outside of that, he hasn't played as much down the stretch. Whenever Purdue needs to get offense going, they go small. They put TKR at the 5, but then they're kind of giving up rebounds. So it's kind of a choosing your own death type of thing, where you either sacrifice a little bit of offense for rebounding, or you sacrifice rebounding for offense. And a game like Ohio State, where the offense really isn't doing much, it's not really a way that you can win, especially when Ohio State's shooting pretty well. John Mobley, he played fantastic. I was hoping that he, cause I know he was injured a game or two before. I was hoping that he wouldn't be playing for Purdue's sake, just because I think it's how good he is and how good of a shot maker he is. But Bruce Thornton is a guy that Purdue recruited. He was in that same class with Braden Smith. I'm glad Purdue got Braden Smith, but Bruce Thornton is a great player and a guy that Purdue would like to have.
I need more Omer Meyer and Jack Benter minutes.
And Daniel Jacobson too. Just real quick about him. Believe he played 4 minutes in the Ohio State game, and his plus minus was -13. So
it wasn't good, that's for sure.
Yeah, obviously he's still a freshman. He's put on a lot of weight, but still probably has ways to go there. When teams are being physical with him, like that kind of eliminates his shot blocking ability and his ability to do his job, which is to protect the paint. And when they're kind of having their way with him, he's just pretty ineffective. So I think a year to 2 years down the road, I think he'll be a pretty good player. Right now, he's just pretty much unplayable.
All right, Jake, big one tonight against Northwestern. What makes them dangerous?
Nick Martinelli. That's about the only answer there. He is a shot maker. He takes shots that may not be conventional. They might be kind of awkward looking shots. He's got kind of a goofy floater hook shot type of offensive bag, if you will. But he's comfortable in ISO. He's comfortable posting up. He's developed into a fairly solid 3-point shooter. Shooting 37% from 3 in conference play. It's a pretty stout guy too. He's put on some muscle and willing to play in the post there. And him and a guy that I think could give Purdue some problems here is Arrington Page. He's a guy I've been kind of impressed with in the few games that I've seen Northwestern play. He's their second leading scorer. He averages 10.3 points a game, 4.5 rebounds, and 1.1 blocks a game. He does most of his damage at the rim. We've talked about how that's been kind of a struggle here for Purdue. He's also a pretty good passer and a facilitator on offense. So I think those two will be the keys, kind of the keys on offense. And then a guy that, and I was watching that IU Northwestern game, a guy that I could just see kind of in my nightmares giving Purdue problems is Jake West. He's a freshman, 6'3", 180 pounds, number 3 for Northwestern. He's a point guard, pretty fast. He's also shooting 37% from 3, and he just looks like that typical guy that is going to go out there and give Purdue problems.
My thoughts with Purdue and Northwestern with this is Chris Collins always seems to have some kind of plan in place to be able to compete and make games close and bother Purdue, especially when the games are in Evanston. I think it will be interesting to see how Purdue bounces back after back-to-back losses. Guys, what are your predictions for the game?
I just want to see Michelle not having to watch the game between my fingers because it's so ugly. That's all I want to see. Man, on Saturday, it was hard to watch, Jake.
Yes, it was. And you see Arena, it was 50%, 45%, Purdue fans. Like Purdue drew a pretty good crowd. So a lot of Purdue fans there, but like there was just nothing really for them to cheer for the whole game. Besides, when they got out to that early lead, I think most Purdue fans, I just kind of want to see the team that they've seen before, the team that we saw against Alabama, the team that we saw, against Texas Tech, the team that we saw against IU here for the second time. The team against Nebraska, the team against Maryland. That team is still in there somewhere after these lulls that we have. We just need a sign of life here. Is kind of what we need.
I'm going to say Purdue's going to win this game because I can't even bear the thought of them losing. I think it's going to be pretty close. Give me 87-82, Jake.
Yeah, I was going to say Purdue 80, Northwestern 7. Being at Northwestern, I think it'll be a little closer than it probably should be. Northwestern, they have been playing well, but if they can shut down Nick Martinelli and try to keep Arrington Page off the glass, I think this should be a pretty easy game for Purdue. We also said that against multiple teams this year, and Purdue's proved to let them either win or you just keep the game close. But my keys to the game, just dominate on the glass. I mean, that's things that we've repeated this year. That keys to the game, just rebounding the ball. Just as simple as that. Not allowing second chance opportunities. In this game, you got to make Nick Martinelli work, and got to stop the transition offense. Northwestern, they're a team that they can like to run, and they might struggle a little bit more in the half court offense, so they can keep them out of transition and rebound the ball, make Nick Martinelli work for a shot, and take maybe some more bad shots. I think Purdue should be able to come away with this one.
You have a prediction, guest host?
I think even though it could be close, and part of me says, it could be in overtime because that seems to happen when Purdue goes to Northwestern. But I think Purdue's going to come out like they kind of did after their loss to Indiana. I think Purdue will actually come out, and I won't be surprised if they actually win by 15.
They should.
80-65, because I know Northwestern will try to keep it a half court as much as they can. So I'll say 80-65.
One of the few things that's kind of given me some hope here is in the 2018-2019 season, I think Purdue lost around the same amount of games in conference play, and that was the year that they kind of got hot there at the tournament. Carson Edwards went off, and we're seconds away from a Final Four. So obviously Purdue doesn't have a player nearly as explosive as Carson Edwards was, but that's something that still gives me a little bit of hope here. So whether it's Fletcher Loyer, Braden Smith, heck, even CJ Cox, somebody's just got to get hot. That's what March is all about, just getting hot at the right time, and hopefully they can show the fan base here and honestly show themselves that they still have what it takes to contend for a national championship.
We need Fletcher Loyer to be our Ryan Klein.
Yep. Yes, we do.
Yeah, you do. That's a nice thought there and a nice comparison from them to now. Everybody tune in to watch Purdue. They've got 2 more games left before the Big Ten tournament. And we know that the only Big Ten championship they can win this year is if they win the tournaments. They're still playing to have one of those, to have a double bye. I think they're still in the running for a double bye. So these last 2 games are important for them. That's it for me. So I'm going to say goodbye. Good night.
Thanks, Michelle. Thanks, Jake. And, of course, everybody, Boiler Up.
Yeah, thank you. Boiler Up.
The Central Indiana Sports Report is a product of ITG Media, and I love Susie.